It looks like there might be a possible Linux port of a popular multiplayer game that previously would not run on the Steam Deck. I'm going to talk about that, plus the Steam Deck's top 100 most played games last year, and 10 games under $10 in the latest Steam sale, as well as some SteamOS news. But first, there are no shortage of popular multiplayer games that just won't work on the Steam Deck due to anti-cheat, which is frankly irritating, because Valve has shown us how easy it is for devs to allow anti-cheat to work on Linux. And some devs just don't want to bother. Hell, Bungie, the devs behind Destiny 2, have even said that they would ban you if they found out that you were playing on the Steam Deck. I personally don't understand that thought process. The game would run fine on the Steam Deck, and the barrier to entry is pretty low for them to make that change, but Bungie continues to say no. But another publisher that might be sick of saying no is Riot Games, because it looks like Valorant might be getting a Linux port. Not only that, but it might also be coming to another platform in addition to that. For those of you that haven't played it, I guess I would compare Valorant to Counter-Strike, but the heroes that you play as in the game have special powers. It's pretty popular, but it isn't a game for me. The time to kill is way too quick, and I suck at these games, so I usually just end up always sitting there dead. Though back in the day, I played tons of Day of Defeat, so thumbs up for that best map, Avalanche. Anyway, this article comes to us from gameland.gg, where they say the data miners have found snippets of code that hints at both Linux ports as well as a Switch port. Of course, this has yet to be confirmed by Riot Games, and I honestly don't see the need to make an actual Linux port when they could just allow the game to run via Proton and make sure that the anti-cheat works, but I'm also not a dev, so maybe they've determined that it will run better if they do an actual Linux port, which sounds great. I'm all for more Linux ports. For me, this doesn't really move the needle, but there is a reason that this is significant, because if more games are seeing Linux as a viable alternative, then perhaps the games that are currently blocked will get the similar treatment, which leads me to a question for you. Which games that don't currently work on the Steam Deck right now due to anti-cheat would you want to see get set free first? And you can't say all of them. Leave your list in a comment down below that like button. Moving on. Valve announced the top 100 games that were played most on the Steam Deck in the last year. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all of them. You can look at the list, but I will say the top 5. I'll also let you know which ones are on sale right now in just a second. Starting with number 5, Elden Ring. Fantastic Souls-like game, absolutely love it. It came out almost exactly when the Steam Deck did, which I have posited that I think that that's part of the reason the Steam Deck did so well. It's been holding on for about 2 years at the top, and it's hard not to see why. It's a great open world game with really enjoyable combat, though I'm terrible at it. Number 4, Hogwarts Legacy, which is actually the best-selling game of last year. In the most recent episode of the NerdNest podcast, we talked about how WB doesn't seem to understand how amazingly well Hogwarts Legacy performed, and instead they're doubling down on live service games like their absolute failure Suicide Squad, which is really weird because they should be focusing on single-player games. Be sure to check out the podcast if you haven't. Number 3, Dave the Diver. I haven't played this, but it is award-winning. It looks fantastic. It has Godzilla. It probably runs like an absolute dream on the Steam Deck. I can understand this being near the top, but I haven't picked it up yet. Convince me, people. Number 2, Vampire Survivors. I have poured so many hours into this game, some on the deck, a bunch on my PC up on the big screen. It's so fun and simple, and it's inspired countless clones. It's a great game. Buy it if you haven't. And number 1, last year's Game of the Year at the Game Awards. It also won at the DICE Awards, Baldur's Gate 3. This is the closest thing you get to playing D&D without other people. But I think what gets overlooked the most about that game is the multiplayer. I've played multiplayer Baldur's Gate 3 a couple of times where me and my friends each control one character, and it's absolutely amazing. It's really fun. It plays great on the deck, though I hear In later chapters, when you have big cities, they do have some performance issues. That being said, it's a turn-based game, so it doesn't really interfere with the gameplay. Of these games, they're all on sale right now as I record this, with the exception of Elden Ring. Speaking of sales, it is the Steam spring sale, and I've scoured the records looking for 10 games under $10 that you might not have yet. Watch all the way through and tell me how many of these you already owned, as well as your picks for the best games that are under $10 right now. Number 1, Untitled Goose Game. If you don't have this game yet, you have got to pick it up. You play as a goose that's also a bit of an asshole, and your reason for existing is to ruin people's days. It's hilarious, it's enjoyable. I played it on the Switch, but it's now on sale for 50% off at just $10. Number 2, Chrono Trigger. Sure, you could emulate it, but I believe that if a publisher is giving you a way to buy a game, I should buy that game and support the devs that make the games that I like. Chrono Trigger is 50% off, and it's only $8 right now, and it's very positive for reviews. Number 3, Halo the Master Chief Collection. It's Halo, it's on sale for 75% off, and it's only $10 right now. Buy it, it's a great game. I played Halo 1 for the first time, I think like 3 years ago, and that game holds up really well. Number 4, Resident Evil 2. Number 5, Resident Evil 3. Both are just $10 and 75% off. Both are really well done remakes. Capcom is just killing it with the Resident Evil series. And speaking of Capcom, number 5 is Dragon's Dogma. It's on sale for 84% off at just $5. I have never played Dragon's Dogma, but with the hype of the sequel, which is coming out, I think like this week, maybe, it might be time. Number 6, Graveyard Keeper. Take equal parts of Stardew Valley, and instead of being in charge of a farm, you are in charge of a graveyard. And sometimes you have to do some pretty unsavory things. It's 80% off at $4, and it's really fun. Number 7, my favorite horror game of all time, Alien Isolation. Super intense game where you are hunted by the xenomorph and you can't kill it. It's an amazing experience all the way through, 75% off at $10. Here is a clip of me playing it back when I used to stream on Twitch. Number 8, Moonlighter. I don't personally like this game myself, but I am apparently the only one. You go dungeon diving at night, and you come back to sell the monster parts that you collected on your dungeon dive in your shop during the day. I love the game's style and I love the combat, I just didn't enjoy running the store. This one's only $3 thanks to an 85% discount, but the reason that I have yet to pick up Dave the Diver is because the premise behind Dave the Diver kind of reminds me of this game, so maybe I'm wrong about it. Convince me that I need to pick this one up. Not this one, but Dave the Diver. Anyway, number 9, Guilt. It is a horror game that isn't gross. You play as a girl looking for her, I think it's either cousin or sister, I can't remember which, in a world that kind of mirrors the real world that they live in, but it's filled with like these super creepy looking monsters. Again, it's not gross, there's no gore, it's just creepy, and it looks really good. It's fun, it's short, it's 50% off, it's $10, get it. And number 10, Fallout 3. My favorite Fallout game. It's only $2.50 thanks to a 75% discount. I know everyone else loves New Vegas the most, but this is the one that I spent the most time with. And with the Fallout TV show coming, I'm feeling nostalgic for Fallout. Moving on, I haven't given you, all the updates about SteamOS for a while, so I figured I would go on a quick roundup. On March 8th, we got an update that added a new way to recenter your gyro with a button press. Basically, what this does, when you set a Steam input to whichever button you want, then when you press that button, it forces the camera to look down as far as possible. No matter where you're looking, it pitches down 180 degrees and then back up 90 degrees to get you looking straight ahead. It's worth noting that in order to do this, you will need to be using the dots per 360 degrees and have it calibrated properly for the game that you're playing. This is great for games that you want to play with gyro. Most of the time when I'm correcting a little bit of drift, I end up doing that by placing my thumb on the stick, moving it down, taking my thumb off the stick, and then resetting. Now I can bind all of that to a simple button press, and it'll be a lot easier to reset your view in gyro games. Then on the 11th, they extended the maximum delay between when you hit the 180 degree down and then 90 degree back up in order to allow games that had, we'll say, less consistent frame rates to do the same thing. Anyway, that does it for this episode. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill, and watch this video right here. Stay rad, everybody.